Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Gani Goes to Africa. I was so excited when I stepped off the plane. So excited. I couldn't get through the visa process. I needed help every step of the way. And then I walked outside looking for my Airbnb host who was there to pick me up, Christopher. He came forward, we met, and he left his phone number and name so that the airport would know that there was someone there to receive me and that I had somewhere to go. And so when we're on the road and we're halfway there to the Airbnb, he gets a phone call. And the phone call is from the airport. I left my bags at the airport. Can you imagine that? Traveled all this way, carrying my baggage from airport to airport. And I get to Africa, and I forget about my luggage. That's how excited I was. Just so excited. So we turned around and went back to get my luggage. And I laughed. And I said, they must be laughing and talking about me. How can someone forget their luggage at the airport? But I did. By the time I got to my room, it was already night. And so when I woke up in the morning, I hurried up and got out of bed. I showered, I got dressed, and I rushed out the door. I wanted to see Africa. I wanted to feel the morning breeze against my skin. I was so excited. So excited. I'm home. I'm home. And while I'm standing on the terrace, looking down at the garden, the beautiful garden, I can feel the morning breeze blowing and brushing up against me. And it felt so good. It felt so good. Africa, I'm home. And then as I looked around, I'm admiring the papaya trees, the banana trees, the animals in the far distance that are of statue form, not real, that's in the garden. I happened to see something from the corner of my eye, and I looked, and oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe what I saw, but I saw it. There was this tree, and a bigger tree, and then another tree that's smaller, and the leaves, there were only a small few, not the whole tree of the three that I saw, just a few. And they were moving, like they were waving. And I said, oh my goodness, that tree, they're waving at me. I couldn't believe it. And then something in my spirit said, yes, they're waving at you. Wave back. And I'm like, what? Wave back? Yes, wave. And I waved back, you guys. Oh, it was such a beautiful moment. It was like my ancestors who were calling me here were there, speaking through those tree leaves. And they were huge and big enough for me to see and notice that they have arrived to say, welcome, you made it. A week later, Christopher took me to meet his family. And I walked in the house and the surroundings began to speak to me. I felt some type of way. I didn't know what it was. But then we sat down to eat. And I began to tell Christopher that I feel my grandmother, Catherine, here. I feel her spirit. This surrounding speaks of her. I said, are we related? And he giggled, and I giggled with him. And we said we could be. And I just couldn't get over it. I was like, wow. It's like she's here. I feel her. It took me back to my childhood. And all of that, the memories start to flood in. To flood in, it was, it's bringing me to tears just to speak of it. And then he walks me around the neighborhood. And it was still like my childhood. My grandmother, they had a chicken coop. And there was chickens running around. And in some backyards, there were some outhouses. And in my grandmother's backyard, in my papa's backyard, there was an outhouse. That was our toilet. And I'm still in awe. I'm like, wow. Is this my grandmother? She brought me here. My papa, they brought me here. They called me home. Well, my stay at Moshi came to an end, and I left there and I went to Arusha. And when I arrived there to my Airbnb, there's this maid. She's an African woman, young. she greeted me, and I kept saying to myself, she looks so familiar. Who does she look like to me? She looks like someone I know. I couldn't place it. And I kept probing myself and digging in my mind while she's in my presence to try to find out, who does this woman look like? Who is she? And then it dawned on me. She looks like a friend of mine that I had when my husband was in the military. Her name was Cynthia. And when we all had to go our separate ways, we went to Germany and they stayed in Texas, and we lost contact along the way. And I tried to search. When Facebook became popular, I would search for all our friends that we met in Texas. And I couldn't find her. I found one of them. And we're still friends to this day, and we stay in contact. But there's one, this Cynthia, I couldn't find her. And the three of us, it was three of us, we were close. We did things together. We shared things together. And then it dawned on me when I finally contacted where Cynthia was on Facebook. It was her daughter. Her daughter has the initials of the friends, the group that we were in that night playing cards. And it was what? 6 of us. And we were playing cards on the floor. And she used the first letters of our initials to spell a word, a name that she named her daughter. And so I went searching for that name. And finally, under her husband's name, I searched for relatives, and I found that name. And so I went on Facebook and I looked for her daughter, and I found her. And it was through her daughter that I was able to contact her. But her daughter told me she passed away, 33 years old. Oh, I cried. It hurted my heart. She was 33 years old. She died of breast cancer. And so she sent me some pictures of her. And she sent me her memorial picture. And when I saw that picture of her, and then I looked at this maid that I'm meeting at this Airbnb, and I said, that's who she looks like. She looks like Cynthia. And I told the maid, she didn't speak English very well, but I kind of got the message to her that she looked like my friend who had passed away at a young age. And then a few days, or the next day, or 2 days, I don't remember. I think it was the next morning. There's a tap on my window. I'm sitting there watching TV, watching the news, and there's a tap, 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 tap. And I'm like, because I'm expecting the host of the Airbnb. He said he was coming by. So I said, well, maybe that's him knocking on the window to let me know he's coming. And so I hear it again, and I'm like, tat, 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 tat. And so I look out the window, and there's this yellow bird. And I get up, and I move to the other side of the window, and it hopped on the window sill, to where I was standing, opening the window to see it. And then it allowed me to see it, and then it turned, and it flew away. And I said, oh my God. When I was a child, we had a canary, a yellow canary. And I said, oh my God, that is taking me back to my childhood, to that day. We had the canary in a cage, and we let it out to fly around the room. And while it was out, my oldest sister, she came in, and we yelled, close the door, the bird is out. And just when she closed the door, she closed it on that bird, and it died. Did that bird come back to greet me? I don't know. Did my friend come to greet me? I don't know. But I believe they did. My mother uprooted me and some of my siblings when I was 11 years old. She took us from a place that we've always known. We didn't know of any other place. We were born and we were raised there. I became angry, and that anger manifested into something else. At school, I didn't like it, and I didn't want to be there. It wasn't the school that I went to before I was uprooted. I wanted to be with my friends, my family, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents. They were like a village. They were all I knew. From them I extracted knowledge and wisdom. I was planted there. They were my soil. They nourished my roots. And when I was uprooted, I became angry. And that longing manifested into something else. It got so that my mother could no longer recognize who I am or who I was. I couldn't recognize me. I began to change. My behavior was different. I was in a soil that I wasn't used to. That soil couldn't nourish me the way I needed to be nourished. My village, my family, is my village. They could nourish me the way I needed to be nourished. That could have prevented me from becoming angry and longing and becoming something that I wasn't meant to be. All by uprooting me from the soil, fertile soil, that I so much needed to become the person that I was intended to be. So I understand the ancestors and what they went through when they were uprooted from a place that they've known all their lives and taken to a different place, an unfamiliar place, and to be planted there in a soil that is void of nourishment. I could understand how the ancestors must have felt. Their anger manifested into something else. They began to change. They began to rebel and fight because that longing manifested into something else. And so I say all of that to get to this point. We're our ancestors who were uprooted. Africa is the soil that we must return to and get planted and rooted here where we belong.